Is Christianity under attack? Well, Christians certainly seem to think so, but in reality, it's just the facts failing to confirm their fantasies, and they don't like that being pointed out. Too bad. You have to be able to compete on an even playing ground, and I'm sorry to say, but you people just can't. You can't at all. So they just whine about it. Let's go look at an example. This is a video from a channel called Magnified. It's a small channel, but big or small, we evaluate all claims, and this time, he's trying to explain how to survive an atheist attack, like we're making an armed assault on your house or something stupid like that. If you don't want to deal with honest, rational questions about your position, well, maybe you should just keep it to yourself. Stop trying to push it on others if you don't want us to respond. But no, that's never going to happen, right? So let's get into it.
Anti-theists or new atheists are not your grandpa's atheists.
No, not quite. See, here's the problem that modern Christians have with new atheists. And there are no real new atheists. They just can't shut us up. They can't control us. They can't kill us if we get out of line. That's what a lot of Christians say they want to do. Well, maybe not the killing part necessarily, although you can find plenty out there who say that they'd like to harm us if they thought they could get away with it. But atheists are not saying anything now that we haven't been saying all along, now that we can speak our minds publicly, and the religious hate that. It just makes them look bad. So there is no new atheism, except that they can't force us to stop anymore. And that's kind of why we're winning, isn't it?
They've changed tactics and can be really aggressive, especially online.
So, you mean they're acting more like theists? Because it is not remotely difficult to find theists making online death threats against atheists, and let's be honest, atheists have been outrightly murdered, especially in Muslim-majority countries, just for not believing in Islam. It's not like it's just the Muslims either. Christians have and do murder people they don't agree with in cold blood as well. This is not something that they should be proud of. But then again, we don't have people like Steven Anderson or the Phelps clan screaming hate either and telling people that they should go out and commit violence against others. That's kind of a religious thing.
So how do you talk with someone who seems bent on hating you and your beliefs?
You get out of the straw man mentality that the religious tend to have. I don't think you're going to find an awful lot of atheists who hate you as an individual. Your beliefs, yes, those should be hated because they are demonstrably harmful to a free and open society. I don't hate Christians, I pity them. I think they are abuse victims of childhood indoctrination and terminal immaturity. I think you people need help. Granted, the religious have it baked into their theology that absolutely everybody hates them, which I figure we're going to see more of that here. But it just isn't true, at least not in any case that I've ever seen. If anybody has examples of atheists actively hating on people and not hating on the religion itself, let me know that down in the comments because I'd like to see.
New atheism is a movement born out of classical atheism. In Christian circles, we can often mistakenly think that it's only Christianity that has strengthened or shifted the defense of its ideology over the years.
We are equal opportunity critics, at least I am. I don't just oppose Christianity, I oppose all religion. And in fact, I oppose all magical thinking because it is harmful to the advancement of human society. Religion seeks to keep us in the intellectual dark ages. Unfortunately, the religious have had centuries of comfort where You couldn't possibly publicly challenge them because if you tried, you died. They utterly ruined your life. You could never get work. You could never rely on anybody else in the community because without at least claims of Christianity, you were an outcast. And they still want that to be the case today, but it's just not. Now they have to put up and they can't. And we all know they simply won't shut up because their theology doesn't allow them to do so. It's no wonder that they're kinda screwed. It's no wonder that they don't like it. They want to get back to the way that it used to be, where they were in charge. And sorry, but that's never going to happen.
Atheism has done the same thing, and new atheism is just the latest school of thought for those looking to win the age-old debate versus Christianity.
We already won that. Look at how far Christianity has fallen in the Western world. The latest numbers that I have seen, and I don't know how credible these are, but we're down to about 55% of Americans reporting being Christians. That used to be 64%. I'm thinking it might be a little closer to that, but who knows? It is what it is. Christianity is about to lose their majority. What are they going to do then? It's just going to strengthen their victimhood narrative, but that means absolutely nothing. This is why Christianity has been going offshore, trying to convert the uneducated, because I think they all know that they've lost here.
The two ways that new atheism differs from classic atheism are in its conversation style and even the very claim they make.
The torture, the violence, the cruelty. Heaven watches this going on with perfect insouciance. And something like 2,000 to 3,000 years ago decides, right, we have to intervene now. What about having somebody tortured to death in an obscure part of the Middle East? That ought to cure it.
I don't think that the message or the criticisms are any different. We just can't be shut up anymore, whereas before we could be abused or killed outright to keep the Christian comfort levels up. Now, sure, there are some things that we know more about today than we did in the past, but I don't think that's a change in message or tactic. It's just an increase in knowledge. Had they known about it back then and not been immediately murdered by the religious, classic atheists would have just said the same thing. If there is a change, it's due to increased freedom, and that's always a good thing.
A new atheist will typically ask you for proof or evidence of your belief, and then without even listening, reject it.
Bullshit. Because we are listening. We've always been listening. You just don't have anything of any substance to say. This is because we are not impressed with the only thing that you have. Faith. Faith doesn't mean anything. We are looking for more, and you have no more. That's a problem. Oh, I know it's not a problem for you, because you don't care. But we have much higher standards than you do, and it's pretty pathetic that yours are so low. You are only after emotional comfort, whereas we care only about rational fact. We care what's actually going on in the real world that we all share. Maybe you people ought to give that a shot. All right, you can't because you desperately want to maintain your religious beliefs, and if you came up to our level, you would have to leave it all behind because what you currently believe simply isn't defensible. Yeah, silly me, I thought you could be rational.
Already they've got us hooked. I tried to answer faithfully, I tried to be thorough and construct a good argument spoken from a position of truth and love, and now I'm just being unceremoniously dismissed?
See? What did I tell you? The religious have spent so much time wallowing in their weak sauce beliefs that now that people are pointing out just how weak it is, they don't know how to pivot to something else better justified because their beliefs are completely unjustifiable. But it all worked before. Sure, because you had the political and social power and control to force others to keep their mouths shut. It didn't actually work. You just murdered all your detractors, but that's what you thought you were doing. This is where you've got problems, But you can't admit it because admitting your arguments were crap all along, that just makes you look bad, and it shows just how ridiculous your faith was the whole time. You're looking for status quo. We're looking for reality. The two are never going to agree. You have lost. Your numbers are dwindling. They are not coming back. Rent a clue.
If this happens to you, you might find yourself feeling very emotional.
And that's the problem, because reality doesn't care about your emotions. But you weren't allowed to be mean to us before. So what? The only thing that matters is the truth, not how you feel about it. Your feelings are completely irrelevant, and that's the biggest problem between religion and reality. They can only feel. They can't think. They can't reason. They can only try to baldly rationalize their way back to where they get the most emotionally comforted. But they don't actually care if the things in their heads accurately represent our best information about the real world. Atheists and an increasing number of people out in the real world, we don't care about your feelings. We've never cared about your feelings. We only care about the facts. And that's why these people look like immature children throwing childish temper tantrums. Because that's actually what they are.
You were really hoping to be taken seriously. You were hoping to be a light to the person asking you a question about the hope that lies within you.
You were hoping that everyone was just like you are. You just found out that you were wrong. This is a really common problem today, and it doesn't work out for anyone else any better than it does for Christians. You can't just assume that you automatically have all the answers. You can't just assume that you're automatically right. Faith doesn't automatically get you to truth. That's where you need evidence, and religion has spent thousands of years telling everybody not to care about the evidence, only care about what makes them feel the best inside, and what makes the church the most money, but that's the quiet part they don't want to say out loud. But that's not how it works. So when you go out and try to tell the world about the things that make your fifis tingle, nobody is going to care, and they shouldn't. The world is just pointing out that you are irrational, because you are. And if you don't like looking like an idiot, knock it off.
Instead, you feel tricked, made to feel a little bit dumb.
Because you are. He's describing the problem accurately, but not understanding that he and his ilk are on the wrong side of history and reality. You feel dumb because you are dumb. You have embraced an irrational position for entirely emotional reasons, and when it turns out that you have no actual support for your beliefs, instead of acknowledging that you were wrong all along and moving on to a better supported place, you just double down on the silly things that you believe for emotional reasons because you really want it to be true. You look foolish because you're being foolish. You don't get your own personal private reality where the things you really wish were true actually are. You have to live out there in the real world with the rest of us, and you have to deal with the things that are factually correct no matter how any of it makes you feel. Otherwise, you do look dumb because you are dumb. Stop being dumb.
This is not the best place to carry on the discussion from, but it's just what they were hoping for.
It has nothing at all to do with hope. Reality is what it is. If the things in your head are not consistent with reality, then you are wrong. It's that simple. You are the problem here, not us. However, you don't actually care about reality. You just like the emotionally comforting nonsense in your head, so you recast the issue as a conspiracy. Everybody's out to get you. They just want to make you look bad. No, you did that to yourself. You look bad all on your own, and the fact that you keep doubling down on it, that doesn't help your credibility any. But we want the world to be flat. Yeah, sorry, that went out the instant that we had photographs from space showing just how wrong you are. That you continue your stupidity only reinforces that the problem is you. Stop being the problem. It's really not that hard.
If you get angry, you get flustered. If you get flustered, your arguments appear weak, and they'll go ahead and start their victory lap because even though they haven't won any intellectual debate, they've accomplished their real goal of knocking you off your feet.
Except that you're wrong on all counts. We have won. You're already lost. That's it. The second that we show that your position cannot be intellectually defended, it's over for you. Now, granted, you don't care, not one bit. This isn't a conspiracy, it's an expose. You are getting up there and proving to the world what a complete dumbass you are. And instead of being honest and admitting that you made a mistake, and nobody's going to hold that against you if you just admit that you're wrong and then change it, you keep getting back up there and pretending that you were right all along. But you're not. All of the faith in the world doesn't prove that you're right. It just proves that you're an idiot. Your comfort means nothing. Your feelings mean nothing. It just means that you have no grasp on the real world. Come out with the rest of us into the sunshine. It's kind of nice out here once you give up your childish lunacy. Your imaginary friend is just that. Imaginary. Come learn to deal with reality.
In a desperate attempt, you might ask them, well, what's the proof for atheism?
And that just shows how ignorant you are. There is no proof for atheism because atheism makes no claims. We just look at the silly stuff that you're saying and say, yeah, we've looked at it and we don't believe you. You have not rationally justified your claims in a way that is convincing to anybody on the outside of your blind faith. That's why so many people are walking away from your religion. The fall off is growing. Catholics are currently the worst hit, and evangelicals, at least at the moment, are the least. Why? Because those are the most fanatical in their faith. And as I've been saying for years, the moderates and the liberals, those are going to be the first ones to go, and a lot of them already have. Religion is never that important in their lives, so when it turns out the religion is just a bunch of bunk, they go, and walk away. They don't really care. However, all sectors of Christianity are falling, liberal and fundamentalist alike. The Southern Baptist Convention, the largest single Protestant denomination in America, has been on a long, slow slide for over a decade now. In the last year or two, they've dropped about 100,000 members a year. That is not healthy. I should not have to explain that to the faithful. In 2022, they reported having 13.25 million members. For a nation with, at the same time, 333.3 million citizens, that is not at all impressive, is it?
To which a new atheist would reply, I don't have to give you proof. I'm not making a claim. I'm just rejecting your claim.
Which is true. Of course, the religious don't like that because that puts them in the hot seat. Well, too bad. You put yourself there by making claims that you cannot objectively back up. This is why they desperately try to shift the burden of proof. It's always on the positive claimant, and we're not making any positive claims. It doesn't matter if you like that or not, it just happens to be the case. Always has been and always will be. But that's not fair. So what? Life's not fair. It is what it is, and you've got to learn to deal with it. This is just another place where they look pathetically immature. This is like the playground stuff, right? But I don't want to have to defend myself. Okay, then stop making claims. Stop believing things for which you have no rational and evidential justification. This isn't that hard. It's stuff that any mature adult ought to be able to do. So why can't you?
Wow, what a beautifully constructed discussion.
It's just reality. By the same token, if someone who believes they were abducted by aliens comes and tries to convince me of that fact, I'm going to look at their evidence and either accept or reject their claims based entirely on the strength of their support. I'm not saying they didn't get abducted. I am saying that I am not convinced that they were. That's how basic skepticism works. But the religious, they don't know how to be skeptical when it comes to their religions. They just want to believe it. Is it any surprise that we are not convinced by your wishful thinking and your blind faith? Because if you can't understand that, then you've got even more problems than I thought.
A stance without a stance. A place that you can continually attack from, but can never be attacked at. You see, someone claiming to be an atheist used to mean that they actively believed there was no God. Now, under new atheism, it means that they just lack belief in God.
That was probably never the case. This is just another lie from the religious. If you go all the way back to the 5th or 6th century BCE, then you found Greek playwrights expressing doubt regarding the existence of gods. They didn't say that no gods existed, they just expressed skepticism. It's what brought about some of the earliest scientists like Leucippus and Democritus in the 5th century BCE to suggest that the world was naturalistic in origin and function. The very idea of skepticism vastly predates the idea of Christianity. I've really got no idea what the hell you're on about.
They don't hold an active belief. They're echoing Christopher Hitchens, who said, "Now atheism is rejecting that a certain proposition is true, and is not asserting that a certain proposition is false."
Notice how he added "now," which does not appear, right? Because he's trying to assert a change has occurred, which is simply not true. This has always been atheism, generally speaking. Sure, you have also had people who made that claim, and those people deserve to get challenged on their positive claims like everybody else. I've been doing it forever. Skepticism isn't anti-Christian, it's anti-irrationality. Every single positive claim out there, at least potentially bears the burden of proof, at least if people are willing to call them out on it. If not, then sure, I guess they don't have to back up their claims, but that burden, it never really goes away, does it? You still have to back up your claims if somebody asks you to do so. And the irrational, they don't want to do that, do they? They just want to believe. So he's just established that he's a liar, or at the very least that he's trying to push a position which he cannot provide any evidence for. Big surprise there.
Tricky wordplay.
On your part, at least read the quotes that you have on screen. What Hitchens said was absolutely true. We are not making any claims. We are just being skeptical. We are looking at what you say, gauging the believability of it based on the evidence that you've presented, and if it stands up to critical scrutiny, we'll accept it, at least provisionally. Otherwise, we're going to reject it as we should. That's all that's going on. The problem that the religious have, by and large, is that they've voluntarily put themselves into the hot seat and they're desperately looking for a way to get off. They just push their burden of proof off onto atheists and other religions instead of just embracing it for themselves. Why? Because they have absolutely no way of meeting it. At least when they debate other religions, they can know that the other religions are in the same state with their own brand of claims to prove, but for atheists, yeah, we've got nothing. We are taking no positive position whatsoever. That's a strength, not a weakness. We are only concerned about reality. We are only looking at what you say, and we are using reality as the gauge to judge it against. That's why we do this, because we care about the real world. It's a real shame that you don't.
But is this accurate? Are new atheists really not even making a claim? Because if they're not making a claim to be refuted, then they're just explaining to you what they don't think, which, who cares?
Apparently, you do. That's why you're making a video complaining about it, because you fundamentally misunderstand honest inquiry. Skepticism is very much like science. In fact, it's a fundamental part of it. We are not starting with a conclusion that we really like for emotional reasons and then just looking for any way that we can to get back to it. We're just asking questions and evaluating evidence and going where the evidence most rationally leads. This is what bugs the religious because what we're doing and what they're doing, they're not the same thing, and they desperately want everyone to be just like they are. I do this with everything. I am a skeptic in everything. I have evaluated the claims of the religious for their gods, and I have found them lacking. That's why I don't believe them. It's why I don't incorporate theism into my life, because I am not convinced for rational reasons that it is factually correct. I don't care how it makes me feel. I only care if it is demonstrably true. And the only way to get to demonstrable truth is through evidence. And that's something I can say with extreme confidence about the religious. They just don't care. They're in it for the feels and not the reals. Whereas I only care about what is real. I care about what is demonstrable. I care about what is true. I only want to know what is. I don't care about what makes me feel good. Whatever is, is. I'll deal with the reality no matter what the reality seems to be, just like you should. But you don't, because you don't care about the reality. You just want the fee-fees, you don't want the facts. And that's the sad part of all of this. They just don't care. But they should. And I'm going to continue to say that until they change their minds. Because at the moment, they're not using them at all. Anyhow, we'll be back in a week with the last part of all of this. I didn't really plan for this to be a two-parter, but there was just so much wrong with the first part that I just had to. There was just so much that needed to be debunked that it just took longer than I had hoped. So we're going to be back again next week to wrap it up, and hopefully he'll say something a little more intelligent, but I want you to be making a claim. Okay, too bad we're not, but what you want doesn't matter, does it? The fact that you can't understand why is kind of a problem, but that's a problem for next week, isn't it? So anyway, until then, everybody be rational and take care.